Always remember Durst is the worst.
Durst the worst, bitch.
Okay, well, today's a march for impeachment of the president. And it is easy to think that when you abhor a man, you abhor his policies, that he should therefore be impeachable. But impeachment actually has a number of bases to it, and I just thought I would talk a little bit about what it actually means and how it works. First of all, Donald Trump was impeachable on day one of his administration. And he was impeachable because of, I think, what Brian mentioned at the beginning. He is, in effect, taking bribes, value from foreign officials staying at his hotels. That alone is a violation of the Constitution and would be an article of impeachment. But impeachment actually means something different from what a lot of people think. Because as you know, in the Constitution it says the president can be impeached for what are called high crimes and misdemeanors. And we tend to think of high crimes as being actual criminal action, violation of statutes, that kind of thing. But that's not what it means, and that's not what it was intended to mean when the Constitution was drafted. It actually means much broader things having to do with the role of the president in our democracy. A high crime was actually kind of a technical term, and it referred to actions, criminal actions taken by a government official, in this case the president, as a government official that undermine our democracy. So what would a high crime be? High crimes and misdemeanors, there's not really any difference between the two. It doesn't mean misdemeanors is, spitting on the sidewalk, and a high crime is murdering somebody. They're basically both the same thing. I would suggest there are three kind of general categories that we can think about for this president that you could draft articles of impeachment today. The first one would be under the category of corruption. Now, obviously, corruption undermines a democracy. All of these things have to do with undermining their government. How is Donald Trump corrupt? By taking anything of value or benefiting from his office. The conflicts of interest with his businesses were unbelievable right from the start. They still are. You could even argue that the man wanted to be president or even run for president just so he could enhance the value of Trump hotels, Trump properties around the world. He unquestionably has. Silvio Berlusconi did the same thing in Italy. By some estimates, he gained something like €1 billion over and above what he might already have had just by being prime minister there as long as he was. Trump is doing the same thing. And that falls under the heading of corruption. The next would be abuse of power. So what does that mean? Well, you abuse your power when you say something like, President Obama wiretapped my office before I became president. Or when you make a threat to to investigate or bring a legal action against so-and-so committed a crime, Susan Rice committed a crime. And the reason that's an abuse of power is, if you say it, or if I say it, people argue about it, and we don't have any particular power to do anything about it. The president does. When the president says it, that person is strongly advised to go out and hire a lawyer to defend themselves. That's an abuse of power. And Trump abuses power in that sense regularly, if not weekly, if not daily. Number three, undermining the rule of law. And again, if you think about it, all these things go to damaging a democracy, to undermining a form of government, which we know he's doing. But these are specifically the categories that he's doing them under. How do you undermine the rule of law? Well, one way would be to cooperate with the Russian government to meddle with our elections. We know that they meddled with our elections, and there's an investigation going on as to how much the Trump administration had to do with it. We'll see where that leads. I have a feeling we have a pretty good idea where it's going to lead. That's undermining the rule of law. But so are systematic attacks on the press. Fake news, all of this nonsense, every time he hears something that he doesn't want to hear. An attack on the press is undermining the rule of law. The press is named in the Constitution. You can't have a functioning democracy without a free press. And without a press that feels intimidated by who the President of the United States is. That is also a grounds to impeach the man. Finally, obstruction of justice. There's no question that firing Comey because of the Russian thing was an obstruction of justice. Obstruction of justice was an article of impeachment against Nixon and against Clinton, actually. It was the first article of impeachment against Nixon. And it was clearly done, in his case, he was covering up a stupid burglary in a hotel. Trump has arguably done something far worse. So, whether the man can be impeached or should be impeached, there is absolutely no question that the grounds for impeachment are there. The only question is whether his party, which controls the House of Representatives, will bring those articles of impeachment.
All right.
Always remember, Durst is the worst.
Subscribe, bitch.